Hi there guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today is hopefully going to be the start of something new that's going to be long standing on my channel, particularly for 2020. I have a real love for old games, so I'm looking to transition into being primarily an old game channel, or like retro gaming channel, focusing more on the likes of the original PlayStation, PlayStation 2 and the original Xbox. But today my first review is going to be on the original Harry Potter game on PlayStation 1, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. So let's get into the review. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone was a brilliant first instalment to a series that had everything you'd want as an aspiring witch or wizard. EA Games released this originally in 2001 for the Game Boy, PlayStation and PC. It was then later released on the PS2, Xbox and Gamecube with a slightly more reimagined game. But yet this is going to be based on the PlayStation 1 game, as I said before. So if you love Harry Potter like I do, you went into the first game knowing exactly what was going to be going on. So the story follows, well, the story of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. So if you know the Harry Potter series, and in particular the first book, then you'll know exactly what's going on. But even for those that haven't ventured into the Harry Potter book series or film series, it has a good overview of what happens in the story, albeit embellished. There are additional puzzles, challenges and lessons that you can do, no different to really what you see in the film or read in the book. But yeah, they make for some quite fun gameplay. But you'll also see all of the favourites, particularly from this first film, the likes of Norbert, Fluffy, Quidditch is a big one. Quidditch, everybody loves a bit of Quidditch, especially me. And then of course Wizard's Chess was a big part of the first film and book. So the film itself didn't take everything from the books, but the game does incorporate some of those missed parts. In particular, at the end when Harry faces Voldemort, he actually has to take a particular potion to allow himself to pass through a flame to get to the Mirror of Erised, and then also of course to face up with Professor Quirrell. For an older game, the gameplay is really actually quite good. It's very responsive and actually makes for a really enjoyable experience as you play it. Just moving around, you know, some games it can be really clunky, but this, you know, doesn't matter what you use, whether you're using the analog stick from the first, you know, DualShock controllers, or using just the directional buttons on the original PlayStation controllers. The movement from any character, whether that's walking or flying, really is quite good. It really truly was made for everyone. You can see that from basically how basic the controls are for this PlayStation game. So much so that actually only 6 buttons are used out of the 8 that are actually available on the PlayStation 1 controller. L1 and circle are actually not used. So L2 and R2, like most old games, will control the camera, so turn it left and right. But with most PlayStation games, X is the button that you're going to be pressing, isn't it? Cast a spell, yes. Accelerate your broomstick, yes. Catch the snitch when you're playing Quidditch, yes. It does everything, but you expect that from an older style game. Basic controls actually make for better gameplay, I feel, especially when your target audience is everyone from 3+. Let's face it, PS1 graphics now look absolutely terrible, but back then I thought this was really good, especially on an old CRT TV where, you know, where the colours weren't quite as dynamic as they are on flat screen TVs now. Obviously everything now is about high definition. This was really not high definition, but even so you can really tell which characters are which. You know, your Harrys, your Rons, Hermiones, even Dumbledore, Snape, Malfoy, you know, even PS1 Hagrid is clearly Hagrid. Of course when games got better you could start to see people better. You know, old football games is one for me where I used to think that they really looked like people, but you know they really don't. Harry Potter, particularly with it being such a you know, a third person over the shoulder sort of game, you can obviously turn the cameras to look at the face. You can quite clearly identify the scar, the glasses, etc. All the characters have their own traits as they do in the book and the films, and you can quite clearly tell who is who. So really it is quite good despite being so old. But trust me when I say despite it being an old game, the graphics really did look good on an old style TV. So if you've got a 15-inch TV, old box one, you know, massive things that you get, it will look good, honestly. Give it a go. So we're going to go on to the different aspects of the game now, in particular lessons, Quidditch, etc. So first of all, lessons. The lessons are actually really cool. As you'd expect, you need to learn all the different spells and potions that are going to be handy to you as you go on in your story. All of the spells and the potions are actually really very simple in nature. To learn a spell, all you have to do is essentially click a series of buttons 3 times. For example, when you're learning the Wingardium Leviosa spell, you have to press, I think it's triangle, square, X, circle 3 times, and then it gets progressively harder onto a second series where you have to do 6, where I think it goes triangle, square, circle, X, circle. You know, you're still finishing pretty simply on that one. But once you've then learnt the spell, you then go into a challenge room, which you then test that new spell that you've learned, which really is quite a cool little thing to have to do. There's a lot of things that obviously are done much better now, but back then it was really quite a cool concept to have to, you know, learn something, put it into practice before you can actually go out and use that particular element. It's not like other games where you're forced to just press a button and, oh yeah, this is how you do this, now do it. It's, you've got to learn this. This is school. You've got to learn this and then put it into practice. Show your teacher that you know how to do it. And then you actually earn house points from doing that. Same with flying a broom. You have the flying lesson. You then have Quidditch practice, which of course then goes on to you having to chase Malfoy to get Neville's Remembrall back and puts you on the Quidditch team, for example. So it all progresses in a linear way, as you'd expect to follow the story. But yeah, so I think that actually the lessons are a really cool thing. Exploring the grounds of Hogwarts can be a dangerous task, but you are never short of the spells that you need to take on your enemies. Along with the spells that you have, you also of course may find that you have a Wiggenweld potion that you can take to restore your health, or alternatively there are enchanted chocolate frogs that you can pick up to replenish your health as well. With each area comes a new set of collectibles that you need to get. Fred and George Weasley are 2 of the well, most notorious troublemakers in Hogwarts, but they set you challenges to collect a set amount of Bertie Bott's every flavour beans. You have a different flavour for each section of the game. In addition to that, you also have famous witches and wizards cards that you can collect through doing challenges or just opening secret passages. And speaking of secret passages, Hogwarts is riddled with them. Usually the explorable ones look slightly different. In particular, in the grounds of Hogwarts, when you're in the forest or just looking around, the secret passages are usually a slightly different pattern, and so you can really identify the walls that you need to go through. It's the same with the bookcases in the school itself. You have very thin bookshelves. Usually if you use the action button on those, they will open up, you will go through, and you will either find a challenge room, a famous witches and wizards card, or you'll find Bertie Bott's beans, or a selection of all of them. So now we're going to go on to Quidditch. When we think of Quidditch, we think high speed, big hits, chaos, you know. But this is a very simplified version of Quidditch in this game. There's no scoring from any other players except the seeker themselves, and really you can't actually get out of the game until you catch the snitch. So you can't even lose these games really. The simplified version is that you have to fly through about 30 to 40 different coloured hoops. They start off blue, saying that you're not very close to catching the snitch. They go red to say that you're getting closer, before they finally turn gold to signify that you are getting close. Once you've gone through enough, it then goes into a time section where you have to try and catch the snitch while it's in range. This is essentially a long bar that the snitch travels up and down. Your hand is at the other end, and as it comes in, you have to press X to try and catch the snitch. All well and good, provided you can time it right, because certainly with these old games, the time that it takes to actually register one of the buttons to be pressed is certainly a little bit slower than what it is now. on our games. But if you are any sort of Harry Potter fan and you love Quidditch, then you know that Quidditch got a big time upgrade in a future game, but that is for another time. So personally, this was one of my all-time favourite games on the PlayStation 1. Coming up to now being nearly 19 years old, I have to give it credit. It still looks fairly good despite obviously being old style PS1 graphics. It has everything you could want as a Harry Potter fan, but even if you're not a Harry Potter fan and you've just picked up the game to have a playthrough, it has the whole story there anyway, so you get a good feel for what is happening in the story, as well as just being a good fantasy adventure game. So for every game that I review, I will be giving it a score, and personally for Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, I'm going to be giving it a solid 8.5 out of 10. As I say, it had everything that I wanted as a Harry Potter fan to start off this game series, and as I say, they only got better from here, and in particular one stood out for me. But yeah, that is it for this review. So do let me know what you thought of the Harry Potter game in the comments below, whether you've played it or having seen this, whether you will give it a go. I really enjoyed it. As I say, 19 years ago when it came out, I played it then. I've been playing through it recently as well, and I have to say I still enjoy it. Let me know what you thought of this review as well, because I really would like to get some feedback on how I'm doing, what I can improve on, and any games you want me to review in the future as well. But yeah, that is it for this video. As always guys, thank you for watching. If you have any feedback for me, please leave it in a comment below, and if you want to keep up to date with everything that I'm doing, including more reviews like this, then please subscribe, and I'll see you next time.